Welcome back. The Invest America Trump accounts go live on Saturday as America marks its 250th birthday. As you know, Altimeter's Brad Gerstner was the driving force behind that program, and he joins us once again live. Welcome. It's good to see you.
I mean, Scott, it's great to be here. I'm in my flag room. I got my flag cup, got the flag behind me. How about those boys out in Santa Clara last night? You know, country road, take me home. Yeah. I mean, that was a huge victory.
Looks like he's in a
It's
Rocky
great to be
movie.
in America.
Bogus red card. Let's just throw that out there because everybody agrees for certain.
Bogus.
All right, let's talk about this. So what a journey, right? Now we're on literally the cusp of all this being live. I mean, how's this feel? From when you first pitched this with us, it was a dream back then. Yeah. I know you couldn't have imagined a day, maybe you did, that this soon, theoretically, that we would be here.
Yeah, well, it is soon. Thank you for asking. And frankly, thank you for having me on, Scott, in the fall of, I think, 2020 or 2021 when we first talked about it on the halftime report. You know, it was that show that caused it to go a little bit viral on Twitter. That got more people talking about it, that led me to set up the Invest America Foundation. It's pretty surreal, you know, the idea that starting this Saturday, every child born forevermore, in the history of America will get an investment account at birth, seeded with $1,000 in the S&P 500 that will compound for their lifetime. And the momentum we have around this is totally extraordinary. Every company that is signing up to add money to the accounts of the kids of their employees, companies like Micron, Sanjay announced this week, $250 million going to 1 million kids in the communities they serve. Of course, everybody's familiar with the $6.25 billion gift from the Dells, but we have Ray Dalio in Connecticut, me in Indiana, Harold Hammond in Oklahoma, and I can tell you I have billions and billions of announcements in queue for the kids. This is bonus dollars to go into these accounts. And of course, let's step back for a second. What did we talk about on that first show? Why do we need this so badly? Because 60 to 70% of Americans aren't feeling connected to the American dream. They're not participating in the upside of compounding. This changes all that. This makes every child a shareholder from birth, and they will be able to compound for a lifetime in the upside of the capital markets, right? That's how we close the wealth gap. That's how we get everybody feeling like they're on Team America again, benefiting from the upside of America, right? Owning some shares in SpaceX, in Google, in OpenAI, and Anthropic, and all these companies that we're talking about. This is step one. Remember, this is a journey that will last decades, but this is an important milestone. I'll be at the White House on Monday for a historic joint bell ringing, where the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are coming together for the first time. And we're going to ring the opening bell, a joint bell from the Oval Office for the first time in history, marking the celebration for the launch of these accounts. So I couldn't be more grateful for all the incredible partners along the way. You know, on Monday I was in Philly with Senators Fetterman and McCormick. Yesterday I was in Newark at a Big Brothers Big Sisters with Senator Booker. And this is a real big bipartisan tent, but we would not be here without the leadership of President Trump. He frankly was the one willing to take the entrepreneurial risk to make sure that every kid in America had an investment account. You mentioned the momentum, even more this morning, that Goldman Sachs to contribute $1,000 to the Trump accounts for eligible employees and their children. Morgan Stanley, an announcement moving just moments ago before we welcomed you on the program. So the momentum is real. It's tangible. You can see it. And you mentioned SpaceX, which I thought was interesting. Are we going to get something from SpaceX where they become a contributor here as well? You brought the name up, so I might as well ask you. Well, I mean, listen, I'm unabashed. Michael, Dell, and I are the chairman of going out and talking to everybody and getting them to give to the kids of America. This is a transformational new type of philanthropy in America at scale. Remember when Warren Buffett tried to give all his money to the Gates Foundation and was, frustrated by the overhead and the lack of success and return on that investment? Now imagine that instead he could just give a share of Berkshire Hathaway to every child in America and let that compound for the last 20 years. Think about the transformational effect of that. So we now have the ability to have large-scale direct philanthropy, no middleman in the middle taking a rake of those proceeds going directly to these kids. And we know when kids have savings, when they have investment, They're more likely to graduate from high school and college. They're more likely to buy a home. They're more likely to start a business. They're less likely to be incarcerated. So yes, I have talked to SpaceX and Google and OpenAI and Anthropic and every one of our friends in major companies. And by the way, not just technology companies. I'm also talking with Dave Ricks at Eli Lilly and my friends in Indiana. We're talking to industrial companies. We think that every company in America has an opportunity to customize a giving program in a way that makes the most sense to them. I was talking to Ryan McInerney from Visa. They're matching for all the kids of Visa. But I said, Ryan, why don't you adopt 100 schools across America and give to every kid in those schools? So this unlocks a creative new form of philanthropy. We truly are on day one. The companies we've already announced are the pioneers. So yes, I would say stay tuned. A lot of announcements coming.
Okay, that's a good tease, and we'll certainly keep watching. I'd like to use some of the time today, if I could, to talk to you a little bit about what's been happening in tech this week, because it's been an interesting start to the next quarter, and the way that the prior one ended certainly revealed a new makeup to the market, at least in some respects. Let me first get your take on where you think we are in the tech trade as a whole. Mega caps kind of roared back to life this week. The chips still look a little bit upset, and that's going to be volatile moving forward as momentum has a bit of a problem in and of itself. What do you think?
Well, listen, I think Josh Brown nailed it earlier in the program, which is we needed to have a break. In fact, I came on the show, I don't know, the last time I was on in the last few weeks, where I said we had moved, from large to medium small in terms of our overall exposures. Just because we had these parabolic moves in April and May, and even June, we were up a fair bit relative to the market. So, markets don't move, in a straight line. They needed to consolidate a lot of these gains. The SOX is up over 80% for the year, and the IGV, the growth software stocks, and the Mag 7, they were all down over the course of the last 6 months. So they're playing a little bit of a catch-up trade here. I think that's healthy. We're seeing a broadening out of the trade generally. The backdrop looks really healthy, Scott. We now have oil back below $70. Which will take some of the pressure off inflation, take some of the pressure off 10-year rates. So I think the setup going into the back half of the year is great. But, you got to modulate your exposures here. We talk all the time when I come on, is it small, medium, or large? And you can't have an 80% move and just say, I'm going to have my pedal, to the metal. You got to be willing to, dial back some of those exposures. I think that's what you're seeing largely. It's not really flustering us much. I think still we think that AI trade is going to continue. The single most important thing to the AI trade, right? The question everybody had coming into this year is, will there be AI revenues to justify all this AI CapEx?
Sure.
And remember, we have already had 3 or 4 30+% pullbacks over the last 18 months, 2 years on this very question. And then this year, Anthropic lit the fuse with their incredible revenue growth in February, March, and April. And everybody said, okay, the revenues are here. It's safe to go into the pool. You saw everybody move into the entire AI trade, triggered by that fact, okay? And so the single most important thing people should continue to pay attention to is the gains in Anthropic's revenue, the gains in OpenAI's revenue. I think what people are going to see is that revenue growth is continuing, at least if you believe the speculation from those people who are doing tracking online. It appears that all that revenue is on track. If that revenue is on track, right? If they're headed to $100 billion of exit revenue, this year and have an IPO in the back half, I think you could see a really robust, back half of the year.
Let me ask you lastly before I let you go, because you're a several-time investor in OpenAI in the private market. I think even led at least one of the rounds, if not more, just off top of my head. So this news that they're apparently considering giving the 5% stake to the government would be dilutive, obviously, to somebody like you. And I read something that you posted on X not too long ago, which said, quote, I don't trust shares in the hands of some future politicians that can coerce or liquidate and spend on whatever their political beliefs are. Does that mean you're against this?
Yes, it does. I don't believe in taxing or taking shares from companies. That's not what this country is all about. We don't just have a government. We fought a revolution 250 years ago so that the king couldn't show up and just take 3 acres of land because they decided on some given day that their land, your land, was now theirs. So that's not the way we do it in America. People suggesting that, I don't think that's the way to go. What I did say, Scott, is that I've been talking to all these companies, OpenAI included, about voluntarily contributing maybe 1% of their shares into an account that would go directly to the kids of America, into their Invest America, their Trump accounts. We could set up a dedicated citizen pool where all the money could go to that, and it goes directly to citizens. I don't like the idea of government slush funds, right? Like, where does this money go? Who gets it? What do they spend it on, et cetera? So we have a mechanism now. If we want to have a profit sharing between AI companies and citizens, we have a mechanism to do that directly without having to have an intermediary in the government. And I certainly don't believe in a policy where this government, where this administration, or any future administration can just go and usurp and take the capital stock from U.S. companies. That would be a bad violation of the rule of law in this country and not the way we should go.
Do you think we've already sort of gone a bridge too far in how you mentioned the ideals of free market capitalism is what it is for a reason? This seems to be turning it on its head. Some would suggest that that's already been done to at least some degree in some of the stakes that the government has either already taken or mused about.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds where you're going, right? I mean,
I disagree with that. I think the Intel stake, Intel was going to go bankrupt. The U.S. government intervened. It saved a critical national resource. It's rebuilding, the semis supply chain in the U.S. That's critical to our national security. That was a smart investment. The U.S. has profited, handsomely from that investment. I supported that. That was a lot smarter approach than what we took under the CHIPS Act. But that is a very different thing. That was a negotiated transaction between two counterparties. We put money in. We got shares in that company. That's very different from the suggestion that the U.S. government's just going to show up, like Bernie Sanders has talked about, and just say, now 50% of your company is the property of the U.S. government, or 10%, or 5%. You pick the number. I don't care who's suggesting it. I don't care if a Republican's suggesting it. I don't care if a Democrat's suggesting it. It's a terrible idea. The Trump administration has not done this. I hope they don't go down this path. I don't think they're going to go down this path. I think the path they will go down, which is one that I would support, is if these companies want to voluntarily contribute shares of capital stock from founders, whether it's Sam Altman or Dario, or whether the companies themselves want to do what Mark Benioff has talked about, which is a 1% plan. Give 1% of your equity. But it has to be voluntary. And number two, it should go directly to citizen accounts, no middleman. And if those two conditions are met, then I think this administration could really bring, a public-private partnership together that would be great for America. And I think that's the path they're looking at. I certainly know there are people around the administration who are suggesting these other things. I don't think it has a lot of momentum. And I know most Republicans on Capitol Hill, myself included, would be against it, and Democrats. Right? The idea that we're just going to show up, knock on your door, and take part of your company, I think it's unconstitutional, and I don't think it's consistent with, the spirit of America on our 250th birthday. We fought a war against this.
We'll leave it there. And as you said, look, congratulations. The president got this over the finish line, but you had the sneakers on the whole way, wearing them out, pounding the pavement, trying to run what was a marathon, and now it ends this weekend when it opens live. Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, my friend. Take care.
All right. Yep, that's Brad Gerstner. Again, we'll see Brad on Monday. He's going to be on Squawk Box, and that's going to be ahead of what Brad was talking about, this historic bell ringing in the Oval Office to mark the launch of the Invest America Trump account. You don't want to miss that, nor do you want to miss Joe Kernan's exclusive interview with President Trump. That is tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern right here on CNBC. We'll do finals next.